How do you convince people? First of all, like it's like you need YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, and every other company just to make a hard stand and say, no, we're allowing this, we're done, and then allow the conversations to happen. So this is what we've been advocating for quite a bit. I mean, mostly me, but I think, Lydia agrees.
Yeah,
Reform
100%.
230. Reform Section 230. You're familiar with
yeah,
Section?
of course.
I bet you know.
So how so? In what sense?
So right now, you saw what Trump did with the executive order.
Yeah.
Can you explain to people what Section 230 is? Just
Yeah.
'cause you're the social media
Digital intermediaries who host user-generated content have immunity, a certain degree of freedom from liability over the content. But it doesn't actually say that you can't moderate. It says that you
can.
You can, yeah.
Right.
In good faith, which is a problematic term to put into law, I would say.
It says essentially, you can't hold these platforms liable for what other people say, and these platforms can moderate so long it's in good faith that they're trying to remove objectionable, lewd, lascivious, violent,
Right.
or it says like, or in other ways objectionable content.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden now you get Twitter saying #LearnToCode is objectionable.
Well, I just don't like the bait and switch. The thing is that they all started as, Twitter's slogan is free speech wing, the free speech party.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
That was a joke, they said.
Google, don't be evil. Facebook, revolution starting in the Middle East from Facebook. Everybody, thought that these were for free speech. And so they put years of their lives into building up followings there, thinking that they could say all this stuff for years. They could actually, to a certain, the content policies were always pretty bad, in my opinion. They never were like First Amendment focused,
right? But
they were way better. And so to me, it's more false advertising. And that is definitely grounds for some legal action.
If I have to imagine when Twitter started banning people for saying learn to code, there's no reasonable person who would consider that objectionable. No reasonable person. They'd be like, I don't understand. What does that mean? It's like, oh, it's a reference to getting a job in the coding industry. Like, what's wrong with that? So how does Twitter still have Section 230 protection if they already are, removing content outside of the realm of what the law allows? Does someone just need to sue them to make it to get started?
I think people are trying.
Yeah, but I know. So Trump has this executive order. They want to define what these terms mean specifically. Maybe that's a first step. What I'm thinking for Section 230 is we definitely don't want to get rid of it. We definitely need it. But it should also add a provision saying illegal speech, right? And that's specifically declaring threats, incitements to direct violence, announcing that you are literally going to go commit a crime or something. But if someone says naughty words and stupid opinions, that's protected speech. I think let me know what you think. Because my assumption is if they amended Section 230 to say you can remove content that is deemed, illegal, everything else, it's fair game.
Yeah, that is one path, though. Then you are sort of forcing, like a Christian blog to suddenly have to keep content that they may. I do think that platforms should be able to do what they want to do, but it's all about context and with which billions of people joined.
Well, let's
seriously.
Let's expand on that because that was a really good counterpoint. You're saying if we change the law this way, then a Christian blog that's really small with only a small handful of users gets inundated by a bunch of people posting porn and they can't do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. But I also, look, we're trying to build out blockchain perma-web storage so the content can't even get deleted. So you have the option to post to this is a teaser for what's probably coming out in the next month or so, but there's a really cool block weave project called Arweave, and so you'll be able to post to a totally decentralized database that cannot get taken down. Now the nodes in that network can choose to ignore certain content, and they do, and they actually have a pretty strict content policy, but certain nodes can always access it. They've already backed up all of Wikipedia and Archive.
Wow.
And
bro, that's kind of scary though, man.
It is, but it's sort of we're not forcing that. But I do feel like you should have the option to.
Sure.
I mean, put it this way: you sort of have to decide.
It's like a tattoo.
If you
man.
want, what's scarier, 1984 in the context of everything is permanent and known, or everything can get burned?
Fahrenheit 451 or 1984. Is that what 1984 was? Like everything was known, like everything was permanent.
Yeah, it's more everything was known.
The panopticon. Look, man, what if you are, 20 and you're like, I think, what's it? I can't think. I think Nickelback is great. And now, that was a long time ago. Today you're sitting there and you're like, I can't believe that will exist forever.
Yeah, I mean, it exists in time and space, so I don't know. But you shouldn't have posted it to. Here's the thing: it's already on the internet, so it just came out that Instagram wasn't deleting anything that people were deleting for a year.
Really?
That just came out.
I didn't hear about that.
So, yeah, so people thought that it was deleted, and it was not deleted, and some hacker researcher figured it out, and. So, even in centralized databases, like sometimes it's hard to delete data.
Can you even delete data?
Exactly.
Because I remember
there's tombstones, there's all this stuff with the way that the internet works. Like you think that when you're walking around the internet, you're just like, you have some sort of right to just delete actions like rights to databases.
Yeah.
Like it's not that easy, even if you wanted to. I do think you should have the ability to delete your content if you want to.
But I mean, like, there were hard drives in the World Trade Center that were smashed and burnt to a crisp, and they got data off them.
Right.
I see these stories. I remember I once did like a mass purge on like an old computer, and I like rewrote it, formatted it, got some special software, because I was doing this at a hackerspace with like some friends, and then he ensured me like this program is going to be able to pull stuff off of it. And we were able to pull off videos and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I thought, and it was probably more to do with the fact that these things to actually wipe the hard drives don't. So even if Google, even if Facebook, you're like, I would like to delete my data, they go, you got it. And then it exists in other forms. You know about Facebook's shadow profiles?
Yeah.
So basically, even if you don't use the platform, they've collected so much data on you from other people, mm-hmm. You've got a shadow profile.
So how is that any different from what TikTok was doing with their collection of the phone numbers and everything?
Giving it to the communists?
It's not that different.
It's giving it to the communists.
But that's the thing. The TikTok ban is, it's like you have to have standards. Like why, just because it's, I agree they're doing super shady things, but there's plenty of U.S. companies that are easily selling data to China. And so it's like if you're going to have surveillance standards, have standards. Don't just like pick an app.
But they can control, like, so if there's a U.S. company doing that, if they want to, they can step in and just crush them. With TikTok operating outside, they could crush them sort of in the U.S., like banning them, which is basically what they're trying to do.
Yeah, now and trying to get Microsoft to... Trump's trying to get Microsoft to buy them.
Well, Twitter talked about buying TikTok. Mm-hmm. That's got to be the stupidest thing I ever heard. They shut down Vine. And then,
they already had...
Yeah, what are they... It's so dumb. But I guess TikTok is still a little different. I honestly don't trust that many of these news social networks are real anyway. I think they use that technique where you create fake profiles, then you give young people fake followers so they think they get addicted to it. Mm-hmm. They see the number going up and they're like, I'm doing it. And then they brag to their friends, look how many followers I got, and their friends join. And it's just a really easy and cheap way to trick people into signing up. Because I've seen, without naming some of these apps, I've seen it very clearly botting. And then I've seen people dedicate their businesses to this stuff. Remember what Facebook was doing with Facebook videos?
Oh, just giving views based on nothing?
Yeah, so, well, I'll say my understanding and opinion for legal reasons. Yeah, basically, so you'd put up a video, the number would be ridiculous. And then they would brag about how their video views were bigger than YouTube, and it was just vanity numbers. It wasn't real.
It was a quick scroll by.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting down with this big production company out of San Francisco. I'm talking like one of the biggest networks. And I said, YouTube, man. I was like, YouTube's where it is. YouTube's where it's at. And I don't see that changing. And they were like, I don't know, man. I'm looking at these Facebook numbers. You got to understand how crazy this is. And then I remember that actually came to when I worked for Fusion, which was the ABC news company. Straight up, they had the conversation, and I said, not Facebook. And this guy's like, yeah, but listen, man, these Facebook numbers, we're looking at like a million views on this video we just did. And I'm like, you're not getting views, bro. Then they dedicate all this money into Facebook, building out infrastructure for production, and then overnight it crumbled in front of them.
That's the scary thing.
And
They just strangled the reach.
Yeah.
YouTube is one of the few that has maintained. It seems like their default feed, it is annoying. They do not go to Chronological, but they do have the subscriptions feed. But it seems like the organic reach on YouTube is better than other social networks. And, it's smart for any network to give lots of organic reach. Like, you're going to retain people longer over in the long run if you keep it.
If you created a reverse chronological social network, wouldn't it just devolve into lunacy and extremism? Like, if that's all it was?
I mean, it's based on who you subscribe to.
But, like, people would exploit the system. People would personally choose to create the most bombastic and extreme content that would get more shares. Mm-hmm. And then people would choose to subscribe to the craziest people, like Twitter, basically.
Yeah, but from a news perspective, what you said earlier, that's where I'm at in terms of needing to feel confident that you're going to have access to the information that you've been expecting to be able to get.
I think about the challenges of trying to run these big networks, and I think it is fair, to be fair. There's no simple solution.
No, man. And algorithms are not bad. That's like saying math is bad. You can't.
Do you know what YouTube used to be like in the early days? It was all thumbnails of women in bikinis. I'm like half kidding, but it basically was. Mm. A lot of it was these short clips that were just, it was kind of like Vine almost, or TikTok, these short clips of funny viral moments. Charlie bit my finger and things like that, right? Or, goats screaming like humans. Now it's 10, 20, 30-minute videos that's doing well because YouTube wanted to promote more substantive content. So podcasts started doing way better. Politics started doing way better. And then the other issue is early on when thumbnails, it was all about if you get clicks, we show you, right? The people who put up the bikini women on their thumbnails got more clicks than anybody else. But then you click the video and it'd be some dude in his room talking about, I don't know, Barack Obama.
That's the thing. People are going to yell at whatever social network it is no matter what they do. So if people, even if you don't have some crazy algorithm that feeds one political side and you just feed more of the video of the creator that you're watching, some people will yell at the network, you're just, leading them down the path of that person.
Yeah.
And it's like basically any recommendation is going to potentially have problems associated with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think keeping it simple. What do you think is the best recommendation
for like how to run the system of delivering content?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think social media is just a busted system. Maybe we need to reimagine it, rebuild it. Because right now, we started this conversation based on the tearing down of statues, and how many of these people who are many on the left who support this don't realize they're tearing down. They're tearing down George Washington. They're tearing down, priests. They're defacing Jesus. I'm sure many of them don't care about that, but some of these people are. Hans Christian Heg, for instance, died fighting to free slaves. They tore him down. Someone tore down Frederick Douglass, one of the most epic, anti-slavery dudes. Period. Worked with Harriet Tubman. This guy was awesome. They don't know this because the algorithm won't show them. And so if you only do reverse chronological, people still have confirmation bias. They probably still won't engage,
Yeah, I think that alternative feeds that aren't reverse chronological can still be really valuable. And maybe there could be echo chamber breaking algorithms that could feed you from both sides, libertarian, socialist, Democrat, Republican, centrist, and you can train feeds and have people train feeds. We're trying to work on like a decentralized reputation system. You've been really focused on figuring out how to do fact checking as well. And I think that if you can start to build credibility in certain tags, then do you think that your vote should be higher than somebody else's vote in journalism topic on a certain social network?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No? Not than some random person? Probably a little bit more.
It's tough because I don't know. I don't know how to answer that other than I don't like the idea, because what ends up happening is you create a system where the New York Times is considered more credible. And then what do we see with the Covington kids? A wave of fake news. None of them did any work. And we're supposed to trust these people. They're all verified. So Twitter has created essentially this. The verified accounts are considered more credible.
But what if it was based purely on like peer-to-peer voting? It wasn't based on like
partisan shit. I would have a really low. I would have an extremely low rating. I'd have.
No, you wouldn't.
I'd have a 50-50. I would. Yeah, the left would come to brigade me and say false, and moderates and the right, anti-SW, like the two culture war factions, they'd both be battling it out on my page or someone else's with negative, comments. And then it would be like 50-50. But then you'd end up with some random guy at the New York Times with 100 followers, and all of his colleagues will give him a thumbs up, and it'll say 100 votes credible. Tim Pool, 56,000, 50-50. And so people wouldn't be able to determine whether or not they would be like, well, we know Tim Pool's popular, I guess. Like, people know who he is. But half the people don't like. I think it'd be, to be fair, a lot of the leftists wouldn't actually. I'd probably end up with like a 65 or 70, because a certain amount of leftists would just be spamming me because they hate me. But mostly they don't bother with me.
Do you think that it would be worthwhile information to have? Not to say that necessarily that was the, end all be all voting metric for, what is featured on the site, but do you think it would be interesting to let the community vote on different people's credibility in different topics? It might be like an interesting secondary metric.
Might be fun to try.
Yeah, just to see what happens.
I've talked about it in the past. And that was the first thing that was brought up to me was you would just get the left attacking any conservative. They have these email lists. They have these Twitter accounts. You'd get one of these Twitter accounts with 400,000 followers, and they would say, everybody tweet negative on this guy. And then all of a sudden, one day, you got a guy with 10,000 followers, 8,000 thumbs up, 1,000 thumbs down, really great rating. And then one day, 30,000 people from one of these activist sites or Twitter accounts just thumbs down, and now it's like 10% credibility. And so people are like, whoa, this guy's really bad.
Yeah, there would have to be some sort of decaying mechanism for mobs.
Yep. It'd have to be something, how do you check? It's tough, because they're going to brigade people they like. And I don't know if there's a way an algorithm can determine, unless like you make an algorithm that searches for certain words that only appear on the left.
So you know how the stock exchange freezes if it drops more than a certain number of points in a certain range of time? You could install something like that and just say, if you drop more than a certain amount over the course of maybe a day, then we can pause it until we figure out what's going on. Exactly. Yeah, like the mob.
I don't know, man.
Nice.
I have no idea.
That's my thought.
We kind of went off on a tangent on that one about algorithms, though. But it was a good conversation. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify. And we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.